This is where it comes into a growth mindset. So a fixed mindset, it's always like, I think this is just how I am. I'll never change. This is just the way it is. And, this is, so the people who are like, well, I just don't like people. I'll never like people, or I'm just this. Okay, that's a fixed mindset. Whereas a growth mindset is, I can learn, I can grow, I can change, I can adapt, because we are always growing anyways.
Yes.
But it's a choice on which mentality you fall into.
Yeah, but so I want to hit a point here. So one, we're going to talk about in a second how your childhood environment and different things affect this. But the reality of it is well, you probably have tried to change at different points in your life. I mean, the chances of someone that doesn't want to change actually listening to any sort of developmental podcast. So the thing is, when it comes down to it, you probably have tried to change at different points in your life, I would imagine. And then you're like, well, that's just not my natural go-to. That's another thing people say. That's just not my natural thing. Here's the truth about that. While there is a natural go-to when it comes to how God designed you, he did not design you to be like, woe is me, I'm a worm, I'm introverted, I can't handle people, right? We're meant to go out into the world, cast out demons, pick up serpents, evangelize to people in all those different ways, and make a kingdom impact, shine our light. Our light is not supposed to be put underneath what is it, a bushel or whatever, I forget what it's titled, but
or put under the lampstand, or the nightstand,
whatever it is, it's not supposed to be hidden, right? Hey, welcome back to the podcast. So today we're going to be talking about how you shouldn't put yourself in a box when it comes to things like introvert and extrovert, primarily here.
Absolutely. And if you don't know us, I'm Desnekka, he's Tommy. We're marriage consultants, and we help you actually come out of those boxes and save your marriage and those sorts of things. And so today we're going to be talking about our experience, our clients' experience, and just what we've really learned about introvert, extrovert.
Yep, because it will, honestly, I guarantee you one thing. 99% sure this will be different than anything you've ever heard from anyone else, because we are contrarians when it goes against the world, when it comes against how people think about these things. So one thing I want to point out from the beginning is, if you talk about introverts, which is basically, that's, if you haven't heard that before, it's someone that's metaphorically shy, right? The shy behaviors, those types of things. But the thing is, that's just it. Being shy isn't just a behavior, it's a learned behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So being shy, being an introvert, being an extrovert, being socially awkward, all of those are actually just learned behaviors. See, you're not born that way. No, you're just, and yes, we're going to get into the extreme differences, and we're also going to be talking about, hey, well, there is some natural tendencies, and where do those come from? And we're also going to be teaching you how to reprogram so you can choose how you want to show up. Because I know so many people who are introverted, and that's how they've labeled themselves and grown up and just put themselves in that box, and they're have this extreme desire for connection and to be more outgoing, but there's just a ton of fear there. So we're going to be teaching you how to overcome those things too.
Yeah, I personally, for me, I used to be an introvert, and then honestly, I've been extroverted too at different points in my life. Yeah. And so really the truth behind this is, I wrote this quote down. So if you do quote it, it's from me. But being any of these are just learned behaviors that you learned growing up, but they are not who you are or your identity. These are just things you're like, wait a minute. No. Okay, cool. If you want to hold on to those limiting beliefs and those limiting excuses, and your things that hold you back, go right on ahead. If you want to break past that and you want to actually grow and change and become more, then keep listening.
Absolutely. Because here's the thing about identity. You have a God-given identity, and that is how God designed you and formed you and created you in the womb. Then you have a chosen identity and a survival identity. These are things that you have learned growing up to fit in, to survive, to find and, fit into the crowd and fit in and not be bullied in school and to earn your parents' love and all of those sorts of things and what was modeled to you. And that's the chosen and survival identity, but that doesn't make it your God-given identity. So many people are walking around with these learned behaviors that was never how God designed them, and that's how they've formed themselves into this chosen identity. So we're going to dive into, some of the common sayings that people just say. And if you relate to some of these, let us know in the comments below. But a lot of common things that people say is, oh, I'm just an introvert. I'm just an extrovert. I'm just shy. I'm just a people pleaser.
I'm just an overthinker. I'm just a mountain person. Like I love the mountains. I'm just a beach person. I love the beaches. I'm just an anxious person. I'm just a perfectionist. I'm just stubborn.
I'm just a sensitive person. I'm just an emotional person. I'm just a warrior. I'm just a negative person. I'm just a happy person. I'm just an angry person. No.
I'm just a procrastinator. I'm just an anxious person. I'm just an awkward person. I'm just a quiet person. Right? I don't like being around. I'm just not a people person. I'm just a private person. I'm just not good at communicating. Well, that could be realistically true, but it's not who you are, and it's not what. It's definitely not your problem. Like your problem is like other things, but not to come to the conclusion of like, oh, I will never be good at communicating. I'm just naturally that's how that's said here. It's not like I'm not good at communicating. Okay, cool. You recognize where you're at in your journey of where needing to get better, and that's a good place to start with accountability. But that's not what this statement is about. This statement is about, well, I am just a declaration of I am just not like good at communicating. That is not okay.
Right. And so all of these things, or I'm just not good at opening up, you're right. Like all of those things have been the learned behaviors. And so just like you learned, and what you learned is why you are where you are currently, then you can actually learn something different and change. So this is where it comes into a growth mindset. So a fixed mindset, it's always like, I think this is just how I am. I'll never change. This is just the way it is. And, this is, so the people who are like, well, I just don't like people. I'll never like people, or I'm just this. Okay, that's a fixed mindset. Whereas a growth mindset is I can learn, I can grow, I can change, I can adapt, because we are always growing anyways.
Yes.
But it's a choice on which mentality you fall into.
Yeah, but so I want to hit a point here. So like, one, we're going to talk about in a second how like your childhood environment and different things like affect this. But the reality of it is like, well, you probably have tried to change at different points in your life. I mean, the chances of someone that doesn't want to change actually listening to like any sort of developmental podcast is pretty like, pretty slim, unless you just came across, then you probably clicked off by now. So like the thing is, when it comes down to it, like, you probably have tried to change at different points in your life, I would imagine. And then you're like, well, that's just not my natural go-to. That's another thing people say. That's just not my natural thing. Here's the truth about that. While there is a natural go-to when it comes to like how God designed you, he did not design you to be like, woe is me, I'm a worm, I'm introverted, I can't handle people, right? Like we are meant to go out into the world, cast out demons, pick up serpents, like evangelize to people in all those different ways, and like make a kingdom impact, shine our light. Our light is not supposed to be put underneath the like a what is it, a bushel or whatever, I forget what it's titled, but
or put under the lampstand, or the nightstand,
whatever it is, like it's not supposed to be hidden, right? And so like but an introvert is hiding their light really a lot, and so is an extrovert, just in different ways. But the thing is about this is that the reason why I say this is because you've probably gone out in life and you've tried these different things to change and grow and become more, but then you always revert back to whatever said previous state. The reason for that isn't because of your lack of trying, most likely. Now, sure, there might be some people that you actually need to like do a good like
put in some effort
type of thing. But the problem isn't that necessarily, most likely, if you're listening to this. The problem is that you didn't get to the deeper beliefs. You didn't get to what you needed to get to actually change, because you tried to do more and outwork your deeper beliefs. And therefore, if you try to outwork your deeper beliefs, you will always fail. And so I literally talked to a couple just the other day, or an individual just the other day, I was talking about their marriage and stuff. And they were saying how like they've done all these different things, and coaching, consulting, like counseling, all of these different things, and marriage retreats. And it's like, and they've been trying for years to save their marriage. And they're just like, it's too much damage. It's never changed. Nothing ever goes. It's only temporary. Well, that's true, because like you haven't gotten to the deep things and actually changed the not the behaviors, which is why we don't hit on behaviors a lot. We hit on who you need to become, your identity, because behaviors flow out of identity, and you're never going to change your identity by changing your behaviors. It's not going to happen.
Yes. And we're going to dive more into the how do you fix this and how do you shift at the end as well. So stay tuned, because there's more to come on that. But let's talk about introvert. Like, where does it come from? Why do people even fall into this box of being an introvert? Because there's a lot of society has either been there or claims themselves to be there now. Tommy and I both used to be introverted, and that might surprise, like, if you know me in like person too, like, so one, I'm the same on camera, off camera, I'm the same. And so it surprises people that they're like, you used to be introverted, because I could talk to a doorknob and that would be fine. A tree, actually I prefer a tree because it's more entertaining than a doorknob. And so those sorts of things. But yes, there was a time I was introvert. And that's a lot of people. And it's that desire isn't to be introverted. It's because it was a learned behavior. So well, let's start with a childhood environment. See, if your environment as a child, if you grew up in a really quiet home or having parents that, didn't socialize much, they weren't people, if they were quote unquote introverted, and they taught you, don't draw attention to yourself. Hey, keep to yourself. Don't ruffle any feathers. Don't talk about things because, you don't know what someone else believes. And so just essentially be quiet. Be quiet, hide. That way there's never any conflict. There's never any problems. There's never any people who don't like you kind of thing.
Yeah, or you'll experience it just through like cultural programming. So that's one way where you get told these things. The other way or both could happen, realistically, probably both, but both could happen. But if it doesn't, one or the other could happen too. The other side of this is like, you just learn through mirroring. Literally. Yep. We've met people literally where the adult is very shy, very timid, always saying sorry, all these different things. And then their kids are the same thing. And it's like, well, their kids weren't born like that.
No.
People make the mistake of like, I was just born like, no, you weren't. You weren't born like this. Is a learned behavior.
Yes.
And so like, for example, like temperament, inborn identity and stuff like that, that's different than this type of stuff. That definitely does play a role. And like, for example, I am phlegmatic in when it comes to most things, but when it comes down, and also melancholy, and then she's triple sanguine, which is really rare. She has super high energy. It can go. Me, on the other hand, which is the way God designed you, I require more energy reserves, and I don't have as much like energy before my kind of like meter goes down. That doesn't mean I'm introverted. That just means I need to manage my energy better, and she's built for a little bit different things than me, but that doesn't mean she's extrovert and I'm introvert. Yep. I can actually be very extrovert if I'm in a crowd that's like different than others, right? So it just really just depends.
And so you can see that this is modeled. And so earlier when Tommy was talking about like a parent that was really shy and didn't know how to talk. And so really it was that parent's lack of confidence, their lack of ability to communicate, their lack of being able to really hold their own and carry on conversations and hold their head up high and have that faith and belief in themselves and knowing who they are and whose they are. And that became pattern to their children. And you might be like, well, my kid's the 100% opposite. Yeah, that happens too, because they witness one thing and they're like, I don't want to be that way. And they learn from a different way. So on this introvert though, if they see repeatedly someone avoiding strangers, avoiding conflict, avoiding speaking up, never raising their hand, never volunteering, never being the one on stage or having a mic, then those behaviors become normal. Yep. And so that is what was modeled for them. And the science behind that is there's actual mirror neurons. And so you repeat what you see. And another one is just like repeated experiences. This is actually what, so the repeated experience, and then there's also trauma and chronic stress that play a role into someone being introverted. This is where mine came in, because there was a lot of rejection, a lot of bullying, a lot of embarrassment and ridicule and mockery. And I was talked over a lot in a lot of different ways. And I didn't feel like I fit in because of all of the bullying. And so all of that created trauma. So at that point, I learned it was safer to just be quiet and not stand out, because then if you hide, you're quote unquote safe. That's a lie, but that is what I had fallen into of believing so that I could stay safe. And so that part of the trauma and those repeated experiences that I had gone through had put me in that finding, hey, retreating keeps me safe. So that's where a lot of introverts are, is like, hey, I'm safe if I'm withdrawn.
Yeah, and realistically, this depends on like what you've already had programmed and what beliefs are there. Like, I'm not good enough, I'll never be seen, on all these different things. But a lot of this stuff, even those beliefs are programmed from a very early age, around like, I think the upward limits of 7. But regardless, think about it this way. So when I was a kid, I got bullied a lot too, a lot. I don't think bullying stopped until I got into high school, realistically, and even then it was still beginning. But then after I started dating her, it just for some reason stopped. I guess because I was just not. We were just
I
always.
guess I was cooler than you.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. But just whatever.
I did ride the short bus.
I did not ride the short
Okay, anyways,
bus.
I'm just sorry.
Just
I had to
kidding.
throw that in there.
I was in special education classes. I'll admit that, and I'm proud of it. Right. But regardless, did not ride a short bus. Whatever. Anyways, let me get back to I don't even remember what I was saying. Okay. So like when it comes down to it, forgot my way of thinking. Okay. So think about it this way. When I was a kid in school and I got bullied, right? And when I was young, I remember vividly, like younger than that, before this point, let's go back a little bit further in time. I remember being really hyper, energetic, off the walls, and running around and stuff like that. And I had a lot of energy and all those things. And then I started getting bullied later on. Like I started having seizures around like third grade. I don't have many more. God healed me. But like I had them for 17 years and I started getting bullied, calling Dream Boy, calling all this. It's kind of funny, but like calling all these different things, right? It's okay. You can laugh. But regardless, I had these like different incidents that like, okay, well, it's signaled. Well, if I'm loud or if I like stand out more or less in whatever way, then I get like put down. I get made fun of. So that means that version of me is not okay. It's not accepted. It's not safe. So therefore, what is safe? Withdrawal. Now, if another person goes out and we have family members that are really just loud, like super loud. And so like when it comes down to it, if they stand out, if they're quiet, they don't get attention and then they stand out, guess what? Like that's safe now.
Yeah. So you can see it really comes down to like what the introvert extrovert is really coming down to like what has formed safe for you, what has seemed, because like we all as humans have basic requirements, safety, love, like those sorts of things are some of our base things that we seek. And so all of your decisions and your learned behaviors are going to model around what you incorporated and what your lens created for you. And so someone who's been in a lot of trauma and a lot of chronic stress, they may become really guarded because they don't want to be hurt again. So, hey, if I keep you out, if I keep you at a distance, you can't hurt me. And so they're very artificial, they're very superficial, and they keep people out. So it's easier just not to be around people. Because then if they're around people, they might see the real them, and then they wouldn't be safe, they wouldn't be loved, they wouldn't be accepted, they wouldn't be needed, those sorts of things. But also the introvert here would actually become very hyper aware of their surroundings, which is exhausting. It's exhausting to be on edge and managing people's emotions and trying to, watch the energy of the room and think 10 steps ahead of everything going on so that you stay in the right position to stay safe. And so therefore, if you're in these situations and you've gone through the trauma and you're being hyper aware, people become exhausting because you're looking at your nervous system is so activated that it is draining. You're literally running at fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And so therefore it becomes, people are exhausting, when in reality, it's your belief system training your nervous system and your body has been freaking out. So it's your beliefs that's signaling all this, and it's not the people, it's you.
Yeah, it's like, look at it this way. It's like you are developing habits to go into self-preservation basically around people. And if you look at the people that are typically labeled introverts, what's the other thing they're typically labeled as well? Well, empaths. I hate that word so much, you can tell. But like it's
some of them are, not all of them.
Not all of them, but a lot of them. I'm not saying all because that'd be an infinity statement, but a lot of them are labeled that. They label themselves. It's self-labeled usually. Oh, I'm just empathic. I sense other people's emotions and all this other stuff. Not all the time, but a lot of time it is. And then what happens is like, well, why? That's also learned behavior. That's also learned behavior. You become hyper aware of everyone else's emotions around you to actually just manage everything else and manage everyone's emotions around your ideal version of them that you want them to see. Literally, the self-preservation, that's what it is. Or you don't want to be seen at all, maybe even. Like that's a learned behavior.
Someone who's also been through a lot of abuse like typically ends up being introverted, and you'll know whether it's physical or sexual, those sorts of things. If there's been a lot of abuse, they want to make themselves small so that it's not all the time, but one way that they can adapt is making themselves small and invisible, because if I'm not seen, then I won't be targeted. These people also typically wear a lot of like really big baggy clothes and just things to like hide themselves more of because they don't feel safe being seen. Some other things that play into this whole introvert would be just beliefs in their identity in general. So just thinking that, oh, I'm awkward, or people don't like me, I'm just an introvert, I don't know what to say, I don't know how to communicate. All of these things are going to influence your behavior. And those are all beliefs. Those are all chosen states. That's not true says who God created you, but that is just chosen of how you've learned and how you are adapting. So those beliefs are going to be limiting you to begin with.
Yep, absolutely. So, I mean, if you look at some of these, like when it comes to the beliefs side of things, if I'm awkward, I'm not good enough, those type of things. Well, what happens with that? Well, if you have those beliefs, let me ask you just an honest question. If I have the belief of I'm not good enough, I'll never get ahead, I'm not significant, all those types of things, am I going to be a person that typically thinks that I'm going to add value to a conversation? Like, no, like you don't feel like you have any value or very little value. And so you're not going to speak up. You're going to think no one really wants to hear what I have to say. No one really cares. And then because of all of your timidness that you practice and behaviors and habits and stuff, that when you come around people, they talk over you a lot because a lot of times they don't hear you on top of that. And then like you're just meek and you're not powerful and you don't stand out. So because you haven't practiced that, you haven't developed identity and all those things in those areas. And so then what happens is it just reinforces it. It's just like this cycle of reinforcing. And to be honest with you, it's not other people's fault. It's the enemy that's doing this. And he wants to see you suppressed.
Yep.
And there's demonic activity suppressing you. The enemy wants the last thing that the devil wants and demonic activity wants you to do is to actually have you see yourself the way God sees you and to act in alignment with that. You are powerful beyond measure if you do that, but you're only going to be able to achieve who you think you are at the core of it.
So those beliefs is where, that's a huge hindrance. And social anxiety is another thing, but social anxiety is still just around your beliefs. There's a lot of fear there. Fear of someone's going to judge me, fear of I'm going to say the wrong thing, fear of, I'm going to look stupid, I'm going to be completely awkward. And what's funny is the people who sit there and rehearse this, then they go in and they do something really stupid, and then they draw it because you've rehearsed it, that you've literally planned to do those sorts of things. And it's kind of humorous. And because you're creating that reality because that's what you're rehearsed so much.
Yeah. So your life, you'll hear us say this before, but your life will always, this is proven through science and metaphysics and all that type of stuff, your life will literally drift in the direction of your greatest expectations. Your greatest expectations. It has been proven through science that focusing on a certain area draws more atoms and things, molecular structures to that area. That's how manifestation works. And manifestation is also biblical, by the way. And it just needs to be used in alignment with biblical knowledge. But the thing is like you're going to actually manifest what you don't want by focusing on what you don't want. And then you're going to act in alignment, and then your beliefs, you're literally the perfect primed specimen with beliefs in alignment, identity in alignment, the way you see yourself, the way you see other people, what you think about, what you don't want, what you rehearse in your mind, what you speak, you're going to get exactly what you don't want.
Yep. So good. And so the last couple of points here on how people end up being introverted. One is like the life stage environment. So if you're working alone, if you're being a stay-at-home parent, or you're someplace new and you don't know anyone, remote, like just in a different season, losing friendships, those sorts of things, all of that can be a retraction. Oh, well, I don't know anyone. And then they become excuses to become introverted. And then there is also a part of, especially like listening to this podcast, particularly if there's things going on in your life, let's say in your marriage specifically, but in general, if there's an area of your life that you're struggling, a lot of times there's an embarrassment, and it's easy for people to withdraw and isolate themselves because they don't want someone to ask, because then they feel like I might break down. If someone asks me how I'm doing or ask about, my marriage, I might just have a breakdown. Or so it's easier to just avoid because I don't want to have conversations, or I'm struggling and I don't want anyone to know I'm struggling. There's a lot of false front and a lot of mask people wear that play into this introvert as well. Yeah. I can tell a lot of fears.
100%. And I'm going to challenge you on something. The one that you're listening right now, you. So the thing is like extrovert, introvert, attachment style, all this stuff, the labels, we don't believe in those, but all it is a label like that. All it is a cop-out for you to retreat back into your chosen identity and for you to cop out and have excuses. It's your crappy excuses, and you're not choosing to change and grow and do the right things. It's really what it is. You want to go into self-preservation mode and protect yourself because you have learned that these things hurt you. But the truth is, those things have shaped your identity because you've allowed them to, and no one's taught you to actually change.
Yeah. And the truth is, and I love this work that we do with our clients. It's one of my favorite things to do. We come in and I help you find your deepest beliefs, and we break those beliefs. And when you actually get into breaking your biggest beliefs and you recognize how much that belief has hurt you, you've thought it's been keeping you safe the whole time and thought it's been this self-preservation. In fact, it's the thing destroying you. And it is my favorite work I do with my clients. And so just that is so much fun for me to get to have that freedom released over my clients we work with. It's so amazing. So those beliefs of that you've adapted for those self-preservation of, if I keep you at a distance, then I'll be safe. And, if I don't let you close, then I can't be hurt again. Those are all lies, and they're destroying you. And those are just some of the basic ones. There's obviously much deeper beliefs.
Yeah. Extrovert, introvert, empath, all this stuff. It's not real. It's like the Matrix. It's not real. It's a facade. This is the perfect. I literally saw that video the other day. It is literally the perfect example. She hates that stuff, but it is literally the perfect example. You have taken whatever pill it is that keeps you. I think it's a blue pill. You've taken the blue pill, and you have put yourself in a society that follows other sheep. Like literally, that's what it is.
Or drop in the comments which pill would you take? Okay,
the red pill. It's the only pill to take. Wake the freak up.
So we do need to be awake in general. And so that's what we do on this podcast. We awaken you, and we do go against the grain and against culture. So let's talk about extrovert and where those come from. Because some people are like, oh, well, extrovert is just so much better. And like, if you're extroverted, then you just know how to communicate. And if you're extroverted, you just are so much better with people. And that's not truth. And
That's
so,
all.
because, we're just going to start the extrovert section with saying, that there are people in your life that talk, and they talk a lot, and they talk a lot, talk. But really, you don't really love talking to them because they just talk all about themselves, and they typically talk over people, and they don't know how to relate and understand like deeper things or social cues and those sorts of things because they actually suck at communication. They just know how to run their mouth.
Yep.
All know people like that. And so just because someone is more quote unquote extroverted means that they are better or anything along those lines. No, and that doesn't mean someone's healthy either. And so let's talk about a few key areas where extroverts come from. And so it is also modeled as well. So obviously, introvert and extrovert, both modeled in this way. If the kids grow up watching, hey, parents talk to stranger and hosting people, and they're required to also participate in hosting people and to speak openly and to make friends and to participate in social events, then they are going to be more apt to step into the behaviors because they haven't developed a fear. They've also seen it. They're like, hey, this is what we do. So it becomes culture as well.
Yeah, I mean, our kids are a prime example of that. Mm-hmm. I mean, they can literally like talk to most people, and I'm kind of bragging. Like most people are like very impressed by our kids. And I know everybody would say that, but yeah, I'm just being honest with you. They're very impressive in the way that they've learned, and they're healthy individuals. They're far, far beyond most adults in emotional intelligence, identity, all of it.
Yes, because like that is the culture that we create in our house is emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, and being culturally like socially aware of these things and how do you communicate. They're practiced, they're exposed, where they're talked about. We practice these things, and so there's good things on both sides because we needing time to take to yourself and withdraw in a moment to, hey, recoup for energy levels, like Tommy was talking about earlier, it's not a bad thing. So we're not saying introvert's bad or extrovert's bad. We're talking about like, don't put yourself in a box because there's going to be moments that there's going to be times in your life where, you do need to be by yourself or more into a close knit circle. There's going to be other times where you're going to be adapting and be put in environments of larger groups of people. So let's talk about more about where this whole extrovert comes from. And so some of it's positive reinforcement. If someone learns that, hey, the more they talk, the louder they are, the, more off the wall they are. So think class clown, they get a lot of attention. It may not be good attention, but to them it's attention. So that attention is rewarded and they're going to learn, oh, the louder I am, the more obscene I am, the funnier I am, the more obnoxious, I get attention. I get validation.
Yeah. And then I get in trouble and I get more attention, And then or the girl that dresses there's so many provocative things these days. I'm not being judgmental. I'm just saying when it comes down to this, there's a lot of so provocative girls. And I'm really glad that a lot of this is transitioning back to old where people are more what is the right word? Modest. Yeah. But realistically it's still a thing. And so when a girl thinks about oh, well, if I dress provocative, no matter if you're a young girl or an older girl, but most we'll just go with younger. Then I get attention from boys. I get attention. I'm loved. I'm liked. I'm admired.
Air quotes for those who can't see.
Right. Yeah. I'm air quote. I'm admired. I'm loved. Air quote. All these different things. Right. Then what are they going to do more of? Dress slutty. Right. Same for men in different unique ways. Right. What does a man learn? Right. Well, a lot of men learn that, a man is it's not safe to express his emotions. I got to suck it up, be a man, rub some dirt in it, be a tough guy. Right. And then what happens? You get people later in life. Well, my man never expresses his emotions. My man's not emotional. My man doesn't know how to communicate very well. Well, this is all learned behaviors that they've practiced over time.
Yep. And it really comes out into this. And that confidence and stuff is built through repetition. And so the extrovert, repeatedly, getting praised for different things, that's going to be modeled and they're going to learn those things. And then they are going to have beliefs. And some of these beliefs are not bad. We're not saying that these are bad, but if you have a belief of oh, I make friends easily, I just belong here, people are interesting, I can talk to anybody, those are good, those are good beliefs to carry. That person's going to naturally be more apt to talk and be more extroverted. Now, if it's if I have to put on a show for attention, the louder I am, the more attention that I get, I have to fight to be heard. Those are also beliefs that a lot of extroverts carry, but those are actually unhealthy beliefs that are causing them to not have healthy relationships because we're not going to dive into why, but there's a whole lot of things there going into that too. And then feeling safe is going to be a huge thing. So just like the introvert who goes introvert to feel safe, the extrovert will do things to feel safe too. And they have learned that, hey, this, being loud, having, being whatever gets me the attention. And so that feels safe. And then the environment will also play a role in this as well. So if they're not being bullied, they're going to be more apt to be outgoing, expressive, talkative, those sorts of things, versus in an environment where there's a lot more judgment and those sorts of things too.
Yep. Another one I would say is people pleasing. I did a video the other day on this, but when it comes down to it, people pleasing, people think that because these people are typically, I would say not all the time, but a lot of the time extroverted. And it's mainly because they manage everyone else's emotions. They try to fill everyone else's cups. Except for their own, that is. And so they become resentful and bitter and all these amazing things, right? And so and then they lose their identity and the rosy roles of wife, mom. It's usually women, but that typically happens. But this is a learned thing, and it's learned that you're just a good person. Not really. You're unhealthy. When it comes down to it.
And we'll have to do a whole podcast on people pleasing, but people pleasing typically is more seen as extroverted, and there is men too. So it's a lot of times women, but there is men too who do the same thing. And it's a way to maintain acceptance and to earn love. And so that goes into that trauma and that adaptation, because a lot of times people have learned that, hey, being helpful, being charming, being witty is a way that I'm able to gain approval. I can avoid rejection, I can maintain control, and I can avoid being alone with difficult feelings. There is so many people that stay extroverted and busy and on the go so that they never have to sit in silence to deal with their own emotions or to feel anything.
Yep. You want to know the truth about all this is that when you're a true, healthy individual, grounded in your identity, you have the healthy beliefs, healthy mindsets, healthy perspectives, know how to communicate effectively, all these different things. There's so much more we could go into that. But in short, when you're a healthy individual, you are extremely attractive to everyone. Not like, I'm not talking like, oh, wow, you're attractive. Like I'm talking like your personality and your actual like, your spirit that just like your light that comes out of you.
People are just drawn to you, and not in a sexual way or anything along those.
You're magnanimous, basically, is the right word.
And so yes, now you got me all tickled, Tommy. But
I said a big word.
And so special classes paid off. Anyways, all right. So out of all of the introvert extrovert thing, here's the thing we want you to take away: that your behavior does not equal temperament. Your behavior does not equal your identity. Your behavior does not equal who you are at your core. That's why someone can do something. Maybe someone is loud, and society is really quick to like call someone who like yells or says names and calls people names, like, oh, that person's abusive and that person's a narcissist and they're this and they're that and they're never going to change. Well, those are all lies. See, they are missing the whole big picture. They're all hitting surface level, which is the same thing as the introvert, the extrovert, and those sorts of things. And we're going to dive a little bit into how jobs, because this is a huge thing, how jobs play a role, and then we're going to teach you how you can reprogram and how you can go from introvert to, being healthy and extrovert for those maintaining reasons to actually like, hey, I'm a healthy individual. But you have to understand that your job is going to have a massive influence on your behavior and what you've adapted to. And most people, if you talk to them, they're like, I am a whatever it is. It's an identity statement. They have taken their career as an identity of who they are. That's why there's a lot of people who retire and they like lose their ever-loving mind. People call it like crisis, like a midlife crisis. It's like crisis era. No, it's an identity thing because they had their identity in their job. But your job will play a role in whether you're introvert, extrovert, those sorts of things as well, because it's learned. It's what's required in some cases, and it's just what you practice because introvert, extrovert, those types of skills, it's a repetition. It's a habit too.
Yeah. So the first one is you got nurse/healthcare providers, whatever. They go into you typically, the way this kind of plays out is usually caretakers, the way they identify. So they stay composed during stressful situations, which is not necessarily a bad thing. They just don't typically process their emotions ever. And then puts others first, which may seem like, oh, they're just such a good person. They put everyone else first. They're such a caretaker. Dude, like you should put others first in terms of like over your own selfish desires and selfish stuff. Sure. Yeah, sure. But the correct order is God first, then you in a self-care way, then your marriage and spouse, then kids, then business, work, purpose, then extended family and friends. Any other order out of that is wrong. Period.
So on this whole nurse healthcare, we're going to cover all of them together in this. They're good at staying composed, and they're even good at communicating in a way of, hey, understanding a diagnosis to get what's going on, but they're not actually connecting. It's very surface level, and they are very walled off. They don't let people close. They keep everything suppressed. They don't process the things that they see, the things that they experience, and they don't share their own struggles. So they feel very alone, even though they can talk and they're surrounded by people all the time.
Yep.
Same thing similar with military. In military, they're typically very serious, very disciplined. They can be very direct, and they seem emotionally controlled. But let's be real, most military, like they don't talk about their emotions. They're very walled off. They don't talk about the things they saw. They don't do those sorts of things. And so they typically come across more as emotionless and very serious, and they struggle inwardly without getting help on an external way.
Now, I will say that this used to be really bad up until like recently. I've heard through people that are in the military that we work with that things have changed.
In the fact that they talk about like they're more of conditioned to like start talking about it, and they're doing a better job of that coming out.
Yeah, whereas before you would get like if you talked about it, it was encouraged, but you might get demoted or you might get you might lose something as a result of it, basically.
I'm just gonna still say with this though, it's very common to find someone who's in the military and them to be more serious. Yeah. And then if they might also be incredibly outgoing because you got those ones that have learned about being the class clown and all of that. It's still surface level. They're still keeping people at a distance, and it's all a false front. So those are things that have become repetition. And then some also with along the lines of military and healthcare, first responders in general, so firefighters, police, EMT, like all of those, they are going to be a lot of the same ways where they put other people first. They're very serious, but they don't process their stuff, and it ends up numbing them out. They end up having a huge lack of trust for people. They see the worst in society, and they end up not trusting people. They have a guard up of I'm going to keep you at a distance, and they go through all these things and they're not processing, and so they actually do become pretty withdrawn and in a just walled off. They're there, but they're not really emotionally there because there's too much pain and different things going on. But those sorts of things come out as well. And then teachers are also a big one, as they're pretty expressive and they can take charge and they can explain things, but they avoid being vulnerable most of the time. And they're not a lot of times like teachers, and you have all kinds of different types here as well, but a lot of teachers, they can be on for a classroom, but in other everyday environments, they're very reserved and very sitting back and just like taking things in. So you can also see that the introvert extrovert can play into different areas where someone might be very outgoing in this environment where they feel safe, but then in this environment, not. And because they're adapting to like their what's familiar for them.
Yeah. Another one, and I'll let you go into moms and stuff because that's not me. But sales, I've been in sales for a long time. I've done thousands and thousands of sales calls and stuff over my lifetime. And what I will tell you, and I've worked with some of the best closers ever that teach this stuff. But regardless, here's the truth about this. They are very charismatic, for sure. They can appear confident and sometimes actually be confident in different ways. It just depends on in what. But overall confidence in like the depth of confidence is usually shallow. Usually confidence is like external things like success. And this goes along with high achievers too and stuff like that in life. That's typically, it's not like deep rooted confidence. It's borrowed confidence from other things. Mm-hmm. They typically can be great. I don't even want to say great conversationalists. Let's put it this way. They can get a conversation that go in the direction they want it to go. Because they've learned how to do that, but they're not necessarily typically great at a two-way conversation. Meaning, what do I mean by that? Like they're typically good at getting someone else to open up, but as far as like them, you'll notice that they're usually like it's all about the other person. They're walled off the entire time. Which I'm not saying communication shouldn't be. You shouldn't be curious. You should, but the thing is like it's usually a two-way thing. And so when it comes to that, they're usually emotionally walled off, and there's not a lot of emotional depth with them as a person, typically. I'm not saying all the time. Don't crucify me. I'm saying most of the time.
And I'm just going to carry that a little further. So into the whole sales things, a lot of times it's very surface level still. They'll get someone to talk, but it's that person is talking about very superficial, artificial things. So there's a very surface level connection, and it's not deep. So we have people who are in sales that come and be their clients with us, and so I'm working with these people, and like they're our clients, and they're like, I'm great at sales. This is how they're again the wall. I'm great at sales. I know how to talk. I know how to communicate. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not gonna fight you if you want to. Say that you already got everything, then that's cool. We wouldn't be talking. And so when I'm teaching this communication style that we do of going so deep and just in depth and being able to read behind the lines and just a much deeper level of communication that's not taught with, this is where we're talking about emotional intelligence, emotional resilience, understanding someone's deeper beliefs and all of that just from basic conversations. We get into it and we have a conversation and I teach them, they're like, oh, wow, I've been missing out on so much. And I'm like, yeah, you have been. And so that's one of my fun things to do because I just love it. But sales, and I'm in a couple sales going along with like real estate, the hairstylist, the hairdresser, those sorts of things. They're really good at connection of surface level to establish of associates. Like, I know you, I'm the person to call for this thing. But when it comes to depth or when it comes to true connections or those, it's really not there.
Usually walled off.
Yeah, they're very walled off. They seem very personal, and they'll develop a rep of like being nice, but there's not an actual depthness to it. But again, those things just become what's rewarded. They're rewarded for those sorts of things.
Yeah, to be clear, we're going through these different things, but there's not one thing that's better than the other. It's just we're going through different common areas. It's not like, oh, well, you get to this one career and they're like amazing, healthy. No.
No.
I mean, I guess you could say like what we do, but not really. I mean, there's a lot of very toxic, unhealthy individuals and couples that are coaching and mentoring people. I will just say that right there.
Yeah, we're not saying that any of these careers are bad or want any of them put you as an introvert or an extrovert. We're just saying, hey, some of these will lead into more extroverted tendencies. So like the hairdresser, the sales, the real estate, all of those, you have to lean more into extrovert in order to grow the business. So that's going to be rewarded, but that doesn't make them actually extroverted. See, all of this just proves that these are learned behaviors, that you can do them, right? And what it comes down to is being talkative where you can talk doesn't mean you're vulnerable. And just being able to talk doesn't mean that you can actually communicate. Being friendly doesn't mean that you're actually connected. Being quiet doesn't make you introverted. And socially skilled doesn't mean you're emotionally open. So it's important to recognize that you can't just be like, oh, someone can talk, so they're all skilled. No. We just want you to have some of those realizations.
People have a this, then that. If this, then that situation. It's kind of how our brains are wired, but that's not necessarily true in this circumstance or any of these. So,
and you have to recognize the difference between role conditioning versus identity. And so someone spending like 20 years in a career where they're rewarded for being stoic and decisive and unemotional and even hyper independent at work, they're going to end up just adopting like, well, that's who I am. That's just who I am. And it's not. That's going to lead to problems later in life and identity. But even in the marriage, that's going to be a different turn, because if at work they're unemotional, just decisive, making decisions, and then in the marriage, it's, hey, marriage is teamwork and there's communication and there's emotional connection in a healthy marriage, there can be a massive struggle if you are just adapting into this is who I am.
This is really common actually with couples. So like, look, especially high achievers and stuff like that. But look at it this way. This is what happens. They learn that they're like at work. Okay, think about what we were talking about earlier. This equals safe. This equals rewarded. This equals I'm amazing. This must just be who I am. Right? It equals I'm safe to do this. I'm rewarded for this. I'm accepted for this at work. Everyone likes me. Everyone thinks I'm amazing. I get promoted. I get rewarded. So if that, then I must be this. And then what happens is, this is a common thing people don't understand, is they'll come home and they start having problems at home. Eventually, at some point, it's inevitable at some point when you're not healthy individuals. But or have a healthy marriage. What happens is they're like, well, they're the problem. At work, I'm respected. At work, I'm loved. At work, I'm rewarded. At work, everyone loves me. At work, I'm appreciated. At work, I don't have a problem talking to people. At work, I don't have a problem getting along with everybody. Does that sound familiar? Have you ever said that? Am I in your head? Am I peeking behind the blinds? Right? Because it's true. Like, and I've heard it so many, like hundreds and hundreds of times at this point. And the reality of it is, you may have been rewarded there at that environment, and you've adapted that as your identity. So now when that identity gets challenged and it's not enough and it's not good enough and it's not all these things, that's what it's feeling like, then you get defensive at home with your spouse, which matters way more than work. And then that's what happens in the reality of it. But that's not the point. The problem is that's not who you are. That's what you've learned. And that's an unhealthy version of you. Right? If your work, I guarantee you that person, if their work were to be taken away tomorrow, they would go insane. Like, they would lose all their identity, 100%.
Yeah. And here's the thing is, like, you can have skills to do well and excel at work, and then come home and be able to have a healthy relationship where, hey, where at work you take the lead and make all the decisions, and that's fine. But you can also come home and learn how to work as a team where you hear your spouse's input if you're the man, right? Because women, it's not just women just shut up and just follow whatever your husband says. No, because we actually have a lot of skills and a lot of talents and we see things differently. We bring something to the table, and men should be listening to their wives and taking account for what they say. It's a team. Tommy listens to what I say. Does he has the final say? Yeah, absolutely. But I know he's going to factor in and he's going to have our best interests at heart, and he's not going to dismiss me, right? Like there is a whole, like there's teamwork here. Yeah. Did it used to be that way? So if we can change, you can change too. But
guess what? Same as the guy got threatened at work. If you're a stay-at-home mom and all of a sudden what you do at home isn't good enough and you're always nagging, you're always being annoyed. I'm not saying that I'm saying that from maybe from his perspective, I don't know. But like, I'm not saying that's actually true. But like, regardless, if that's the case, then all of a sudden your identity as a mom, which is highly likely, or a wife is not good enough. And therefore you're not living up to the standards that you've put in your own head and that he has. And then what happens is you feel your identity is being attacked, because it is. Both of your identities are being attacked because they are. That's what your identity is in. So when you feel like something's being taken away, you get defensive and all these things. And no, the answer is not just a compliment. Oh my gosh, I can't stand stuff like this. Stop the tactics. It's not just to be like nice and be like, hey, you're amazing and thank you for doing this today. Those behaviors are great, but they're not going to change anything in your relationship. No. Because you didn't change. You're no different. Your identity is still the same. You're just masking it with tactics.
So we have to start with identity. So when it comes to how do you reprogram and how do we get out of these boxes, it's going to start with your identity. And so you have to understand, like, you have the created identity, which is who God created you to be. That is your natural gifts, your natural strengths, your desires. Yes, like God actually gives us different desires, your temperament, like those things, and not your temper. If you don't understand like an inborn temperament, that's cool. Most people aren't taught that, but temperament is not whether you're hot-headed or not, okay? But that's your God-given identity is who you were created to be. Then you have a conditioned identity, which is what you learn through repetition and environment. Career, family, what was modeled, your sports, your habits, your experiences. And that is what ended up just becoming like, oh, that's who I am. Well, that's your conditioned identity. And then you have your protected identity, which is, hey, what kept you safe? What had you earn love? Like what made you feel love? Those are going to be things that protected you. And so those are going to be adaptive behaviors that are adapted identity as well. So you have to start to distinguish the difference between these things and recognize, and honestly, most people are walking around in that protected, I'll call it survival, their survival identity. And their body stays in that constant state of fight, flight, freeze, fawn, because they're constantly being hyper-focused, hyper-aware to manage situations to stay safe.
Yeah, so if you want to simplify that, created is who am I in God's image. Conditioned is what was I trained to be through my social programming. Protected is what did I learn I had to do to feel safe. Whether it's extroverted, introverted, whatever you want to label it as, I don't suggest it, but those types of things, like they don't exist. They're not real. It's a facade, right? Like it's not real. It's what you've chosen to adapt to. And it's this mask that you put on. Just like a mask isn't real, this isn't real. It's not reality. Take the red pill.
Yes.
So
still don't know which pill you would take. Okay. So here's the thing. When you want to change and you want to step out of the boxes, the first thing that is to want to change for yourself. And this is, so when, let's just see, I'm going to use myself as an example. Part of my identity is I'm just really fun and outgoing and I love to play. Play is a huge part of my identity. Huge part of who I am. Now, if you were to say, let's change that. First of all, we're going to stop right there and we're not going to be able to progress, because my first thing of, do I want to change? I don't. I have zero desire to change how I like to play and how I have fun. And I can pretty much have anything in life be turned into a game.
I can attest to that.
And I do. And I play every day. And is that fine? Yes, 100%. So if Tommy was like, I need you to be more serious. Well,
every now and then, it's obviously, not that you should adapt to situations, but she's not going to go in like joking around with, she has like emotional intelligence. She's not
I
gonna,
do have emotional intelligence.
like, she has a brain. So she's not going to go into like actually like, just not be able to pick up on any social cues, which is part of emotional intelligence with people. Like she's not going to manage their emotions, but she's also going to show up with the fruits of the Holy Spirit, kind and gentleness and self-control, all those things.
But joy is in there. And let's be real. So one of the things that our clients tell us so much, will tell me specifically, is that they actually love how I can bring such a lightheartedness, and I can make processing through some of the biggest traumas, the biggest hurts, like affair recovery and like going through abuse recovery and all of these things that we walk our clients through, and breaking these identities and going through some of the most challenging things I've ever experienced. And I can bring a lightheartedness to it because of who I am and that fun and joy. And I love that. So there is 100% benefits to, who I am. But see, I don't want to change that. So that is a first step. Now, I did want to change when I was an introvert. When I used to be that quote unquote introvert where I wouldn't talk to anyone and it was all fear-based. And I mean, I would have all the body alarms, like my body would be freaking out when I would have to talk to someone. If I had to talk to someone, my face would be red as a tomato, like legit. They would ask me, and how, this is again, right? You people who are introverted, who make things so awkward that they do their whole embarrassment. Yeah, this was me. I was introverted. And then if I, like, let's say I was to go to talk to Tommy and I didn't know Tommy, and I was to say like, hey, and I had to talk to him, my face would be so red. And people would go, are you okay? Your face is so red. Then my face would turn redder, and then I get really hot, and then I'm sweating. And so I'm a hot, sweaty mess, and my face is red. How socially awkward is that? Exactly what I feared, but I was creating it. But I wanted to change that. So the first step of wanting to change was there. But then the next step is you have to stop labeling yourself. Stop labeling yourself. Stop labeling others.
Things.
Yes.
It's good to label yourself good things, but introvert and extrovert is not good things. They're not a real thing. Stop labeling yourself things that aren't even real. Like, I'm a unicorn. That's not a thing either.
And stop speaking lies over yourself of, oh, I just can't fit in. I just can't talk to anyone. It's just safer to stay completely closed off. Those are all lies. So we have to stop coming into agreement with those things as well.
Yeah. Also, I would say this, like, your spouse, you shouldn't try to change your spouse in the essence of like who God created them to be. Now, does Desnekka like challenge me to grow all the time? Absolutely. Do we challenge each other to grow all the time? Absolutely. But we've uniquely become healthy individuals and created that culture. It's not like if it doesn't work in your house, then it's just never going to work because they're just that's who they are. I could just see people doing that. You can't just take what we say here and be like, oh, I'm just going to like do this and it's just going to be a part of it. It is now. Everybody do this. Again, if you miss the point, you can't outwork deep-rooted beliefs.
Yes. And so you have to redefine yourself as a part of that. Redefining yourself is like the next step. So, you have to redefine who you are. And that doesn't just mean on the surface level. The deep beliefs like Tommy's talked about, like the subconscious is so important. And this is where people, and I love you if you've done work on yourself. It means you're hungry and you want to grow. And you've probably feel defeated if you've done a lot of work. And you probably have those thoughts of everything's going to stay the same because I just do all these things and things doesn't really change. However, that's because most people grow in areas of a conscious level and they're not doing it on a subconscious level. We work with so many people that have spent years in either counseling or all these books and all of these different things of self-development and all of these business programs and all of these things for personal growth. And then when they get to us and they recognize that it had all like why it wasn't working was because it was a conscious level and it wasn't the deep-rooted beliefs. That's where we have to have that awareness. So redefining yourself is a surface level, but then we have to dive deep into reprogramming the subconscious, and then we have to practice it and have the reps. So the introvert, extrovert, that was built through habitual practice. And so now we have to have the subconscious reprogrammed and put in the reps and the practice to be able to truly reprogram these things.
Yeah. And I want to be clear here. There's people that will tell you, just do affirmations on who you want to be. That's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Affirmations are great, but
Jump up and down in front of the mirror and all you want and tell yourself, I love me, I like myself. It's not going to work. It's not. I don't care how often you say it. I don't care how much intensity you have behind it. It's not going to work. And here's why. I was literally talking to someone the other day about this, just yesterday. And the truth of this is you have deep-rooted beliefs. And you're like, okay, well, that's what I'm trying to reprogram by doing affirmations. That's a part of it, sure. But you're missing a very crucial key piece of that element, of those elements. You have to get not only to the deep-rooted beliefs, but you also have to reprogram them. But before you can reprogram them, you're skipping steps. So before you can reprogram them, you actually have to provide, there's a process we have that we run with clients, and we actually help them not only identify the beliefs, the origin point in time, which is key. So depth is key. Not only is depth key, so you probably missed that piece, but also even if you get to the depth that you need in terms of deep-rooted beliefs, which I'm like 99.9999% sure you have not because you haven't done our process. But even if you have, and you skip this next part, you're not going to be able to do it, which the next part is actually you have to be able to provide enough evidence to your subconscious that those beliefs are hurting you. And if you don't do it in a unique way that does it the right way, typically people don't go depth on that either. And so when you do this the right way, you provide enough evidence to your subconscious that it is hurting you, because most people's beliefs are a form of self-preservation. And so when you have those things, if you don't provide enough evidence, it's not going to happen. It's like, well, the belief doesn't hurt enough is what it boils down to. Like, what hurts a lot? I have anxiety, I have all this stuff. Well, apparently that's not enough pain, because or else your subconscious would have gotten rid of it.
And I'm going to be clear on that. So if you're like, well, it does hurt because I have whatever it is that you have, here is the thing. Your brain is going to go, yeah, but look, you're surviving and those things are an inconvenience, but you know how to deal with it. It's where you adapt. Yeah. It's where your brain is like, yeah, but I know how to survive with this. So I know, and essentially it's like, hey, the demons that I have right now, I know how to handle those. I'm scared of what I don't know. So I'm going to keep what I know how to manage and how to handle. That's what the brain is saying. So that's why you have to go so deep into that. And before we close out, I do want to talk about just real quick about how you have to respect your spouse in this process as well. Because this is you have to have respect in your marriage, whether you're a man or a woman. It's not just, oh, women respect the husbands. Husbands need to respect their wives too.
I hate that book so much.
It's respect on both sides here. And you want to respect that you guys are both on different journeys. Like, you're different people. Even if we have clients that work with us that are individuals, and then clients that are couples, couples working together. But even the couples, they're on different paths because they're different people. So you have to have that acknowledgement that you're different people. So as even Tommy and I healed on our own journey and coming out of hell on earth, we had to have grace for each other and understanding that, hey, they have things to unlearn. It's going to be a process, and we have to give room for people to grow and, to understand, like, hey, do they even want to change that, right? Like, Tommy is not going to ask me to change something in part of my identity of who I am, like the play, because of how, he knows how important that is to me. And it's a healthy thing to carry. So that's fine, but it's not, you want to make sure that you're not going into the marriage being manipulative and trying to, like, hey, I want to form you and I want to make you this person. No, that's manipulative.
Yeah. I want her to change continually, and she wants me to change continually, but it's not to get something for her or me. It's meaning, like, she's not doing it. Manipulation is this. It's very simple. People have all these different variations of it. There's only one true version, in my opinion. And manipulation is getting someone to do what you want them to do for the betterment of just you. That's manipulation. Leadership, in my case, as the guy, would be, and she can lead too, but leadership, as my case, would be like, I am guiding her and directing her, and not directing her and telling her what to do, but I'm guiding her and giving her direction and path and clarity and all that, and being like, and challenging her in those ways and asking questions and scope questions to get her to grow in different areas and challenging her just like she does me for the betterment of her and the people that she shines her light to. I just benefit in excess from it, but I don't need her to change because I am solid in who I am.
Yes. And you want to be at that place where you are so grounded and your identity is so stable that you are good no matter what your spouse is doing. And 100%, like, you can get there. And that's a healthy relationship. Like, I don't need Tommy and he doesn't need me. And we don't have to behave a certain way in order for the other one to have a good day. And if Tommy is having a bad day, it doesn't mean I'm having a bad day. Right? Because we're human. We have different emotions. But you want to have that respect for different journeys and, hey, for what is it that they're working on? Because there is things to unlearn And it's a process, and you want to be able to have respect during that process and being a team, creating that safe environment. Because when you're being respectful and you're creating that safe environment, it actually builds trust. It's building safety. It's building intimacy, and it allows you to explore together. So as you go through the journey, and one of my favorite things for our clients is when they go through this process of unlearning all of the lies of society and all of their survival identities, they step into the true them for the first time ever in their life, where they're not operating from a survival place. They're not operating from fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and how do I have to manage everything? And they get to discover who they truly are for the first time. And what an awesome experience when they get to do it with their spouse too. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And so when you have that respect for the journey, you create such an intimate connection. It's one that you can't replace, and it's very beautiful. So it's one of my favorite things.
I want to end on this note. Are we pretty much done? Okay, I want to end on this note. So a couple different things. One, I would bet you, and I would challenge you to this process, just this thought, just food for thought. I bet you that you have never truly experienced two things. One, what it's like to be a healthy individual, a true healthy individual. What it's the amount of peace and love and focus and clarity path and lack of anxiety and just healthiness. The second thing I bet you've never experienced is your spouse as a true healthy individual. I bet you've never truly experienced your spouse the way God designed them to be. Ever. Ever. And you're like, and I don't mean to scare you with that, but the truth of it is, like, our clients come through this process, and if you want help, cool, reach out, but there's links in the show notes. But like, when it comes down to it, like, the thing is that, like, most of our clients, I mean, all of our, I would just say all of our clients that we get have never, at one point in time, like, until they work with us, have never truly experienced their spouse being who God really designed them to be, which is an amazing, God does not create crap. No. An amazing, just wonderful person to be around.
Yeah. I have to say, this is one of the best things about coming out of hell on earth and getting to discover who Tommy truly is. And very different than what I had ever thought. And I just, for sure. Yeah, oh my gosh. And if we can be at this place from the hell on earth and everything that we went through, that there is hope for you. But getting to experience, like, the man of God that, like, God actually created Tommy to be has been such an honor to be able to walk this journey with him. So if we can do it, you can do it. And that level of intimacy and connection that we just have the utmost desire for you to have that with your spouse too.
You're so welcome, by the way. Just kidding.
Yeah. So yeah, you're welcome for me too.
Yeah, it goes both ways. I agree with everything she said about me, about her too. Like, we're both amazing people at this point, and I'm not saying that to, like, be prideful or don't get that wrong. I'm just saying that, like, I think that we are great people of God, that we are learning and growing. We're not perfect, and we never will be until we get to heaven. But the thing is I believe it's so worth it to continue to push through. If you're thinking like, well, this I don't know if this is worth it. I don't know if there's too much damage. I promise you, if this is the first episode, you need to go back some episodes, start at the beginning and listen to our story. We've talked about it in depth. We're still not quite done with it yet. We're almost there, done with our story. We've done like hours and hours and hours of our story in depth, what God told us to do. So if you want to listen to that, be like, by the time you get done with it, you'll be like, wow, ours can be saved.
Yes.
Ours, because that's the goal with it. Just be like, hey, ours can be saved. Our goal with that whole hours and hours and hours and hours of podcast is to give you hope.
That is what we want to leave you with, that there is hope. And that the boxes that you've tried to put yourself in, that is not where you were designed to be. It's not. And so we want you to come out of the box. We want you to be a light, to set up on the hill, shining, that cannot be hidden from the world. And that's what we want for you. And to be able to experience what it's like to be truly you, how God created you, and your spouse on the same level. But we love you, and God loves you.
Have a good day.